Hi folks, Morris Gleason here from ISOGG. I have tried to reduce the background noise in the following video as much as possible, but you may need to adjust your volume control in order to get the best effect. Enjoy.
Okay folks, we're going to go on with the second lecture of the day, and once again a big thank you to Family Tree DNA for sponsoring the DNA workshop here, and also thank you to all of the volunteers from ISOGG, the International Society of Genetic Genealogy. The booth for ISOGG is behind you. Anyone who buys a DNA test here today, join the society for free. There's a Facebook page with over 10,000 people. They are very happy to answer any questions you have. There's also a website and a Wikipedia. So anything you want to know about DNA, do check it out on the Wikipedia page that ISOGG run. Now, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Katherine Borges. Katherine co-founded and serves as director of the International Society of Genetic Genealogy, which promotes and educates about genetic genealogy to over 10,000 members in 70 countries worldwide. ISOGG works to increase professional standards in the practice, research, and discussion of relevant issues in DNA testing, interpretation, and ethics. And Katherine now gives many presentations on genetic genealogy to groups across the United States, United Kingdom, and in Ireland as well. And the topic of Katherine's talks is the benefits of being a DNA project administrator. And any of you that have a surname of particular interest in your family tree, starting your own DNA surname project can be very, very beneficial indeed. And here to talk to us about that is Katherine Borges, so please give her a very, very warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Morris. So Morris is actually one of my DNA project co-administrators on the Ireland mitochondrial DNA project, so you don't necessarily need it for just surnames or use it for just a surname. Is there a clicker too?
There is.
Oh, right here? Okay, thank you. Okay, so to begin, what is a DNA project? A DNA project is any grouping of DNA results. It could be done informally or formally. Family Tree DNA offers a system where they'll give you the tools to group the DNA projects, but it doesn't have to be within Family Tree DNA. It's just that they're the ones that pretty much invented what a DNA project was back when they started the company in the year 2000. But many people do have DNA projects that aren't within their system, or it's just a matter of, as I said, of grouping the results. What is a DNA project administrator? It's what myself is, it's what Morris is. Most of the people in the ISOGG stall and the Family Tree DNA stall are volunteer DNA project administrators. Most people do not get paid for this, so I'll go over to why you would want to do this, but there probably are people out there that do get paid to do this, but it's not very common. Most all of us are volunteers. And what are the benefits to being a DNA project administrator? And then I'll go over that too. So again, the idea of a DNA project was born out of Family Tree DNA. They were one of the first DNA companies to start. They started in the year 2000. It was also the same time that Oxford Ancestors started, but Oxford Ancestors doesn't have a method or a grouping within their system to do a DNA project. It's something that you would have to do externally, like with other tools or spreadsheets or websites. So this is the president and vice president of Family Tree DNA in the picture. Bennett Greenspan is on the left and Max Blankfield's on the right, and he's also there in the stand behind you. He's in the black shirt, so he came all the way from Houston, Texas to be here. They're usually here every year. Sometimes both of them, but at least one of them usually comes because they feel it's important to be at this event. Now this is the reason that I became a DNA project administrator, was the word discount. So you know the movie Jerry Maguire when she says, "You had me at hello"? Well, they had me at discount. So I am half Scottish and I do have the thrifty gene. And so I called up Family Tree DNA one day to inquire about my father's Y chromosome DNA results. And the person that answered the phone said, "Why do you not have this in a project?" And I said, "What's a project?" And they said, "Well, that'll give you the ability to group the results and see how people compare to each other, plus you get a discount." And that's all he had to say. And I said, yes, sign me up, make me a DNA project administrator. To be honest with you, I did not really understand what I was agreeing to, but I don't have regrets. I'm a very much kind of learn as you go person. I know some people are more meticulous and they want to know as much as they can before they take that leap, but kind of the way I've done it has been very question driven. I've been a DNA project administrator now since 2003, so it's going on 14 years. And I've learned a lot. I'm self-educated. I learned a lot of it from just asking questions. So the other thing, too, that I love about the company, and all of the companies are like this, is they have sales. And again, that thrifty gene comes through, and I'm very sale-driven. So my name is on over, or my name and email. I'm what's called a proxy for over, I'd say about 50 relatives and friends' DNA kits. And so because of the thrifty gene too, I wait for the sales. So the particular sale that they had at the holidays, not only do you get a sale discount, but then they have these coupon codes where when you log into your kit, it'll come up with different amounts off. And there's people on Facebook that even trade codes back and forth. They list spreadsheets so that if there's a particular test that you need a code for, so you can get the additional discounts. A lot of the companies also do a DNA Day sale. In the United States, DNA Day is April 25th, and then National DNA Day, that is. And then they usually do it too for Mother's Day, Father's Day in the summer, different events like that. So I'm very conscious about using the sales. Like you could do a test, and because they store the DNA for free, then you can upgrade the test to more markers later. So it's kind of a budget, or almost like layaway or installment payments on DNA. So Family Tree DNA also offers an autosomal DNA transfer. And right now, they just introduced it last month to where the transfer is free. And then it's $19 US if you want to upgrade to get the other features in there. So like geographical estimations and things like that. And you can upload results from Ancestry and from 23andMe currently. I don't know yet if they'll probably be coming out with one for living DNA, but the way it works is, I don't know if you know this, but most of the DNA companies, they contract with a company called Illumina, and they buy what's called an off-the-shelf test from Illumina, and then they add whatever upgrades that they want to it. They customize it. So Ancestry and 23andMe both have customized DNA tests because they're interested in using it for health reasons. So both of theirs is custom. Family Tree DNA has an off-the-shelf Illumina, but they strip out the health SNPs because they're just in it for the genealogy, not for the health aspect. 23andMe started as a health company, and then they got into it for ancestry purposes. So this is the page that you would go to where you can do a transfer and upload your results if you tested with one of those other companies. So for those of you that might just be starting out and wonder what do DNA results look like, in Family Tree DNA's system, Y DNA is Y chromosome results. I wasn't really going to go over the basic because my colleague Linda Magellan just did a intro to genetic genealogy talk, and there will be more throughout the day. But for a Y chromosome test, this is what the results look like. So basically, you just get number results for different markers on the Y chromosome, and you get this nice certificate. I just used one of my cousins as an example, and anonymized it, and he doesn't mind me using this one. So, but at this point, this does not derive much relevance because when you're just looking at it like that, it's not in a project. So you need to have it in a project. So this is one of my examples. My mother's maiden name is McCallum. I'm half Scot. Her line came from Scotland, and we are stuck in the early 1800s. So one of the things that I did not know until just last year, I went to Scotland, and one of my McCallum cousins did a Y chromosome test. So I did not know what group we fit into, and we were also stuck, but this is my cousin's results right here. So our ancestor immigrated from Ireland and went to Scotland during the famine. But what's interesting, when I was able to DNA test my cousin and see his results in the project and in this McCallum grouping, there's several interesting things here that I can see by having him in the project. One is he is most definitely Scottish. Even though he came from Ireland, his DNA is Scottish. He's had the McCallum surname. This cluster of McCallums has had it for several hundred years, if not longer, because this is a very old grouping. And one of the ways I can tell that by looking at it is because of the McCallums that he matches. He also matches the variants, like Malcolm. Malcolm is one of the clan names for McCallum. As you probably know, not everybody in a Scottish clan is going to match, but because some people took the surname as protector, and you can see that in these upper ones that are not in this grouping. But it was nice to be able to see that. Another thing on Y chromosome results that you get the haplogroup origin, which the haplogroup tells what the deep ancestral origin is on the direct male line back. So when you see R is the most common one in Western Europe. It's like the alpha haplogroup. So by looking at that, I can see that he's from Western Europe. And then these are the SNPs. And a SNP refines down. Eventually, the SNP will, and it's starting to do this within certain surnames, like Clan Irvin has this, but it will converge with this, and you will be able to pinpoint origins more exactly. For my McCallums, we're not there yet, but you can see here in the DNA project, when you look at the results, these ones in red have not been SNP confirmed. Family Tree DNA gives you an estimate of what your haplogroup's going to be based on your matches here. The ones in green have been SNP confirmed. And I can tell, too, by looking at this, that this person has done more refined SNP testing. So because his haplogroup is more refined out than these other ones that are at the basic M269. So he's had more advanced testing. And again, they offer another test called the Big Y, and a lot of people that get into haplogroups, and there are haplogroup projects. In fact, they have a chart at the ISOGG booth on stall on 106, and Debbie Kennett has done a lot of work, I think, in that haplogroup. But so this one has had it refined out. Now, as far as the charts go, this is one of the great benefits about being in Family Tree DNA system for the Y chromosome results is they have a chart called, there's one called classic subgrouping, and then they have the ones where it'll color the markers for you, and you can see the patterns of for genetic distance, because that'll identify the different patterns of McCallums. So what's interesting is, because some of them are more markers off up here, this person at the top is not going to show as a match to, say, someone who has more markers off on the bottom, because his differences will also make him more off. But I can tell by doing the subgrouping and looking at them, that they all belong in the same cluster. The only thing that might change is if they had there's a thing called convergence. And convergence is when the markers change. The word we use is mutation, but change is the same thing. Sometimes the markers will change, they'll converge when someone will look like they're, say, this R, so what does that say? Z17999. It's kind of hard to see looking at it this close, but their markers might converge, and you would be able to find out if it's accurate based on the SNP testing. That's an incidence when you might want to use that for SNP testing. But this is one of the things that I really like about it, and having the project, is that is also seeing the variation of the surnames, because a lot of the surnames too would have changed upon immigration or misspellings or variants. We have McCallum, McCallum, Malcolm. I don't know. It's just kind of neat, I think, to be able to see that. So in the tools that have really developed over time in the last 14 years since I've been a DNA project administrator, and they came out with what's called a GAP dashboard. So GAP is like Group Administrator Project. So what we call it the GAP, and then it gives announcements right here on usually on events. So like there's an announcement right here for Roots Tech And then over here, every time they do system updates in their system, they leave a message for the admins. The one that I chose to show you is the project that I have with Morris that we're both volunteer administrators for, and it's Ireland mitochondrial. So that's this one right here. I have multiple projects, so I have a drop down. Then back over here, you have links that drop down up here for the same menu items here. So it gives you member reports. You can see all the members in your project. Country of origin charts. What does that say? Maternal ancestry, distribution map. And then genetic reports over here, and then project administration. So you can see things like, who's ordered what kits, what tests. You're able to contact the people in your project. So the dashboard's very handy. So I thought I'd give you an example, too, of what some of the country of origin charts look like. So this one is for, is this my Portugal? I think, Madeira. Madeira, Portugal project. My surname Borges is Portuguese. My husband is of Portuguese ancestry from the Azores Islands. But originally when I set up the Azores project, I also set up Madeira in Portugal. And the reason why is because Portuguese cannot do surname testing like you can here in England and other countries, because Portuguese did not adopt a patriarchal surname system until around 1900. What they would do is their rules are they would take the mother's maiden name. If the mother's family had money, they would take a noble ancestor's name like Betancourt and Avila or noble ancestors. You'll see Catholic parish records that will have, the children will have half of the father's name and the other half of the mother's name. It is very difficult to do Portuguese genealogy sometimes with that naming system. So until they adopted a patriarchal system, my husband's only going to match third cousins in America. So that's why we have geographical projects. Debbie Kennett has one for Devon, too. She has a geographical project for Devon, which also comes in handy. So as you can see on the country of origin, by far the longest bar graph is origin from Portugal, and then you can see the other countries where the participants are in the project from. That's one of the handy things about it. My grandmother, her maiden name, my paternal grandmother, is Thompson, and she was born in Woolwich. And I'm also stuck on my Thompson line because I don't have any male Thompsons yet that I can do a Y-DNA test on. Most of them, the oldest son stayed there, but the other sons immigrated out of Scotland, and they went to the far corners of the earth. I might find one in Australia, but again, too, when you have a surname like Thompson, it's so common, it's very difficult. Andrew Thompson. So also one of them went to Rhodesia, which then became Zimbabwe, and we don't know what happened to them. I hope they're okay. But I'm waiting and hoping that eventually I will get a Thompson to DNA test for the Y chromosome. But until I do, I will also take autosomal DNA Thompson in there, and I might be able to find a Thompson match to myself that way. So I'm a co-admin on the Thompson project. I have a great co-administrator named Greg Thompson who does a lot of the work, and he's also very much into Sniff testing. One of the things that's interesting about DNA when you get into it, it's like, obviously I'm very much into it, I've been doing it for 14 years. You develop certain areas of interest or a niche. You don't need to know it all. You just focus on what your interest is. And you can have other people, volunteers, codemen, that have niches in other areas, because haplogroups is not one of my particular interests of expertise that I study a lot. I mean, I know enough to converse about it, but I'm more into other areas, like I'm into autosomal DNA, I'm into nulls. Those are just niches that develop. So anyways, you can have as many co-administrators as you want. Some people have a lot more. I have on my Azores project, I think there's about 6, and they just have different areas of expertise. Some of them are there because they do the genealogy of the participants and the trees. So anyways, this interface is what it looks like on the family tree DNA system. It looks very much like Facebook. You have a cover photo up here. This is a stock photo that is in their system, but you can customize it. If you wanted to put up the Thompson clan crest, you could do that. And then what's nice is your participants are able to post kind of like a Facebook feed, share their genealogy, share whatever they're doing. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more too, but there's also, let's see, is it on there? No, it's not on this page. I don't know why we don't have the link for it, but there's a thing called a general fund, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I like that they talk to each other. I like that they interact, because then too they can also share their genealogy. Oh, there it is. You're right. Sorry, I didn't see it. She was pointing at it. Thank you. So general fund. I wanted to talk to you about the general fund. So see that amount right there, 302.15 general fund total. So here's the page on the general fund. So what is a general fund? So people started asking Family Tree DNA, I want to be able to pay for a DNA kit for someone else, or to people that are, say, more affluent or have more disposable income, that are more likely to contribute to meet their goals. They wanted a way to be able to do the contributions. So Family Tree DNA came up with a general fund. And that's where people donate. Here's various amounts, like 100. There's a $10, there's a $20, there's a $50. And I wiped out their first names for privacy reasons, but as you can see, the bulk of them are Thompsons that contributed. And then they can also say what they're doing it for. So some of these, this person did it in memory of my loving father, David B. Thompson. This person here did to test their connections in Scotland. So let me tell you how this worked and why Thompson is pretty flush right now with the contributions. So in our ISOGG stand that's behind, just directly behind you on the back wall, there's a surname poster. And on the surname poster are surnames that are listed by project administrators like myself. The vast majority of them are project administrators. And on the list, people submit surnames, so Thompson's up there. So is my maiden name, Bolt, Fuller, Lyon. These are all names that I have up on there. And what we do is we will sponsor a kit for a Y chromosome test for a qualifying name. Now, there is an autosomal project on there for Coverley, which is a family finder project, which you can do that too. And we allowed on the poster, it's just the vast majority are looking for the Y chromosome. Kind of like I would love a Y chromosome Thompson to come in that's related to me. So anyways, what I do is, because I'm a co-admin on Thompson and because I'm here at the show, if I get a Thompson that tests here, then I put out a message to my DNA project, because they allow you to do a bulk email, and I say, we have a Thompson from England, would you pitch in for the kit? And that is what they're doing, is they're pitching in to pay for the testing. So you don't have to foot the bill all yourself. You're able to use your general fund to recruit, to help pay for the testing. So it's especially helpful. As I said a little bit ago, like the Coverley DNA project has a listing on our surname poster. Family Tree DNA gives you within their system an autosomal DNA matrix. And this is not publicly viewable. Everything that has to do with autosomal DNA, unless the project administrator puts something up specifically, the vast majority of autosomal DNA is not publicly viewable. So what I did is I took a screenshot of myself with one of my Fuller cousins. My great-grandmother is a Fuller, and this particular Fuller is brick-walled in about 1803. But she did do Y chromosome testing. She is able to see that her Fullers match my Fullers, even though she's brick-walled. But it's really nice to also be able to see our matching segment that she's my cousin within Family Tree DNA system. So that's one of the things you can do, is it doesn't matter on the autosomal DNA what the surname is. You are able to use this matrix and go through all the members that are within a project and see if they have any DNA in common that way. You can do it too when you just test outright and they're not in a project, but it's especially helpful, like say for instance if Debbie did it with her Devon DNA project, if she wanted to see if various Devon families were related through autosomal DNA, that's all she would have to do is use the matrix. So this acronym right here is what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. They tend to refer to it as their cookie cutter website, but they give you free websites to be able to promote your DNA project, and all you have to do, this particular one for me is, another project I do is I'm a mitochondrial N, And you just go through and click the boxes that you want, and then this is what you end up with. You either get this or you get that Facebook looking page that I showed you. But this one, we have not converted it to the groups page is what it's called. We've not converted it to that because haplogroup N is very, how should I say this? It's very text dense is a good way to put it. It's not the kind of thing you would do a lot of social networking on because a lot of people that are haplogroup N like myself are not going to be closely related. It's a macro haplogroup, which means it's above other ones. It's very old and ancient. So what we did is we just put a lot of reading material and literature links onto our page. And as you can see, I have a codemin. Nearly all of my projects have codemins, and that's because they have that different specialty, they have that different niche where they can help to run the project. And so Bonnie Schrack does a lot of research on haplogroup N. So she became my project co-administrator on that several years ago. But it's really nice to be able to compile all the information in one place, and it's included. It does not cost anything to have a DNA project through them. And most of the time, you don't even have to technically have tested through them, but it helps if you have someone to put in the project, that kind of thing. So another thing that Family Tree DNA does, and they were the first ones to, is they started having conferences. And the conference is titled the International Conference on Genetic Genealogy. And it truly is international because people come from all over the world to the conference. We had people there last year that were from Canada, England, Scotland. I think New Zealand was probably one of the farthest away. Sweden was another one. And this is what it looked like. I have been to every single conference. I plan my year around it. It's in November in Houston, Texas. They've always had it in Houston, Texas because that's where the company's headquartered. And also their lab is there and you can tour their lab. But they did have it one year in Washington, D.C. because they partnered with the Genographic Project. And this is the 2004 conference in Houston. And then this is one of the breakout sessions from 2016. They have thousands and thousands of volunteer administrators like myself, but they limit their conference to 200 attendees. You can bring a guest. You can also have a DNA project co-administrator can attend, but once they hit 200, then it goes on a wait list. So people like myself who plan my whole year around it, we book it right away. So we don't wait. The minute they announce the registration's open, we're in there booking it because we don't want to miss out on it. It's very educational. The whole conference is all about DNA. Some of it, they bring in other speakers from outside. They bring in scientists, professors, but then also some of it is company oriented, and they usually always wait for the conference to announce new products or new things in their system. So it's a neat treat. In 2004, when I attended that first conference, I thought I knew a lot. And I had only been doing DNA for 1 year at that time. And it wasn't until I went to their conference that I found out how much I didn't know. And so at that time, I put out a call to the other conference attendees and also on the RootsWeb genealogy DNA list to, if other people were interested, could we start a society to promote and educate about using DNA for genealogy purposes? And other people, but the caveat is to do it for free. And we live in a really money-driven world, so that seems to be asking a lot. It also doesn't sound, it sounds kind of crazy, to say you want to do it for free. But we have been doing it for free since 2005, since ISOGG's founding. And what I mean by free is we don't charge any dues or fees. And then members like myself, we are self-supporting, so we pay for the content that is in the stall. If we pay for the stall, we pay for various things to be able to go to the conferences. But we like it that way because we can stay as unbiased as we want and say what we want. We're not beholden to anyone. And the other philosophy behind it is, many of us are in other genealogy societies. I'm in several myself. And if I have disposable income, I want to spend it on DNA. I don't want to pay more dues. So that I do get people that want me to charge, but I've always wanted to keep it for free because for that very reason. And so far, we've been able to since 2005. So this is our ISOGG logo that was designed from one of our co-ISOGG founders who has since passed away, but I like it. I'm biased towards that nice logo, and Joss even has it printed on a shirt now. This is what our main website looks like. And last year we received several awards for various things on our website. Again, it's all volunteer and user-driven, but it's a great resource. So Debbie Kennett has done some wonderful things. I'll show you the wiki. This is the ISOGG wiki, and this is one of the stands from Who Do You Think You Are? It looks very similar to the one that's right behind you, but one of the past Who Do You Think You Are's. So this is like a Wikipedia page, but it's all has to do with genetic genealogy. And it's again, too, it's user updated and user driven by volunteers that have added the content to it. We also, to offer resources, especially when you're new and starting out, we have a private DNA project admin list. That's what this is right here. And it has about, I think it's got, right in this picture it says 656 members. I think it's around 700 to 800 now because this is kind of an old screenshot. And so it's a private list. I have a rule on there that if someone posts something, you cannot share it outside of the list without asking the poster's permission first. But it's private so that we're able to talk about things that affect our DNA projects and discussion like that, because I want people to feel safe and it's not publicly viewable. So, but we do have people on the list that do work for some of the DNA companies. And we don't have that restriction, ISOGG. That's another benefit of not taking money or charging dues and fees, is we don't have a conflict of interest as far as having DNA company people, because nobody knows the product more than the people that work with it, and that is their product. So they answer a lot of the questions too. It's great. It's like tech support. So we have that on our, and we also have a DNA newbie one too. If people don't feel as comfortable being on the admin group because it's more advanced, they can also join DNA newbie. That one's also a private group. This is our sponsored test poster, and that's the one I was talking about that's on the wall behind you. And we usually have this in both England and Ireland. The event in Ireland is the Back to Our Past conference. And we did, and what's interesting is there was one year, though, that Who Do You Think You Are went to Scotland. It was Glasgow. And that year in Glasgow, and again, must be Scottish thrifty gene, that is the most testers we ever had for the poster. It was enormous. I think it was about 40 people took advantage of the free sponsored test. So I wish Who Do You Think You Are would go back to Scotland. I hope they do someday. Maybe they'll go to Edinburgh. But this is very popular here in England and in Ireland. Another project that we do in ISOGG, now this was not founded within ISOGG, but it had gone dormant. And so we brought it into ISOGG and revived it last year. It's called JOGG, the Journal of Genetic Genealogy. And it is a publication. Most of the articles in JOGG are from people like myself, hobbyists, volunteer project administrators. But we do have some submissions from scientists. One of the first submissions was from the National Institute of Standards and Technology's DNA lab back in 2008. They submitted YSTR nomenclature. That was actually a very important submission. So I did not want to see JOGG die, be permanently dead. So I got together with some of the people that had launched it that were still active, and we brought it into ISOGG, and this is one of the first issues that was released last year. And as you can see, the paper that was submitted by Joe Fox is a DNA project paper. It's, just an administrator just like us is talking about the different things that he found out in the Fox project. Now, to be honest with you, some of the articles in JOGG are very technical and advanced, but there are some that are simple. And the more you read it, the more you understand it. If you wanted to read a scientific paper too that is published in a scientific publication that is very easy to understand just to get your feet wet, The one that I recommend is on the on the mitochondrial DNA of Jesse James. Jesse James is a famous American bandit, and that they've done DNA testing on some of his family members. And then they also, when he was first shot and killed by Robert Ford, his family had buried his body in the front yard of the house. And they were able to, then he was later moved to a cemetery, and they found some DNA where he had been buried in the first spot. They charged money for people to come in and view his gravesite. And all of that DNA matched each other. So the article, you can just Google, it's really interesting. But JOG does have some easy to understand articles. So both ISOGG, our DNA Society, and JOG have been referenced in scientific papers. So one of the speakers that was here last year, he might be here this year too, I haven't had a chance to look at the schedule yet, Martin Lamisau, he has mentioned JOG within one of his published papers. Debbie Kennett has found the ISOGG has been quoted in, I think it's around 45 scientific journals now. And what that was for the tree. So if you are a DNA project administrator or you're really into DNA, we need you. We would like you. We need editors, articles, copy editors, peer reviewers, and book reviews. One of the recent book reviews is on Blaine Bettinger's new book, which there's a copy of it in the ISOGG stall if you'd like to view it, but it can only be ordered on right now at Amazon. Debbie Kennett is also a book author. I just saw her book at one of the stands over there. I could look it up. I took a picture of it on my phone in case anyone asked. And Emily Alessino also has a book for sale over there. But even something as simple as a book reviewer, if you're a good proofreader, we could use your help. Because again, too, JOG is all volunteer driven too. So this is from one of our past Who Do You Think You Are's conferences. This is, I think it's in 2010. About half of this group here are Americans and the other half are mostly from here, English. And then there's the president and vice president again in the middle. But they're the reason that we started coming here is because they sponsored this DNA area back. And I think the first year it might have been was 2009 or it could have been 2010. I think 2009 was the first year. So, you know, a lot of Americans like myself are very committed, and we keep coming over to promote and educate and talk about DNA. And it's really come a long way in the last 7 to 8 years. I also have some thank yous. Brian Swan, who's in the pink shirt behind you in the stand, he has been our ISOGG regional coordinator. Again, it's a volunteer position for England and Wales since about 2007 or 2008. Debbie Kennett and Morris Gleason are our ISOGG education ambassadors. They help put the speaker lectures on for here and for Dublin, and not to mention a whole plethora of other things they do. Daryl Oakley-Teat is working in the Family Tree DNA stand over there, but she does a lot of the event coordination for us. Linda Parker Magellan was a speaker that if you were in this area just before me, she just gave a presentation, and Emily are also ISOGG speakers. On our Facebook group, which has, I think it's around between 13,000 to 15,000 people, it's myself, Angie Bush, and Cece Moore are the Facebook admins, and it's a big job, let me tell you. And then I tried to thank as many other volunteers that are here during this conference that are either helping out at the stand. This is Joss right here. And show me your lovely shirt, Joss. You got to spin around so you can see it. He had that made. He put the ISOGG logo. It's a very lovely shirt. Did you get your picture of it? Okay. And then this is my last slide. And, you know, just like keep calm and carry on. This is the DNA bases. At the last talk I gave, someone asked me that. What does it stand for? Those are the DNA bases. You don't literally have to learn that. It's just, you know, cute. So I included it. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Katherine. We have a question down here in the second row.
I have an unusual surname, and I have been considering setting up a project, though time is one of the factors. As far as I can judge, I'm the only person with the surname who's tested at FTDNA. Certainly no names turn up on the searches I've been able to do, though I'm not desperately computer literate. There are quite a lot of people who do found a surname. How would you suggest going about getting people to test? I know there are many in Australia, in the States, in Canada, with the name, as well as in the UK. I could probably make a start in the UK, but it might be more difficult in the States. So I'd be interested to hear your observations, because I suspect you've done that with certain aspects of it.
Yes, thank you. So I have a very unusual surname on my father's side. It's Caird, C-A-I-R-D. It's not very common at all. It's found in both Scotland and England, and immigrated out. So my philosophy about it is, you remember the old Kevin Costner movie called Field of Dreams? The big catchline in Field of Dreams is, if you build it, they will come. So that's kind of my philosophy with DNA projects, is even if you're the only person in there to start, like for instance, I don't have a male Caird right now in the project or to test, but I put my own DNA in there because I have Caird autosomal DNA. So I created the Caird surname project. I take both autosomal DNA and Y chromosome DNA. There is a Caird mailing list, so I've posted up there. The other thing too, I think it helps that if you can recruit other people that are interested in that surname that want to donate, a lot of times that's the tipping point for someone, like with our surname posters, if the test is sponsored. It's almost like when you ask someone out on a date, usually the person who does the asking is the one that does the paying. So it's kind of like that too. I mean, I've had cousins that I've asked them to DNA test, and then they've also agreed to pay for the test. But I always assume the financial responsibility up front if I'm the one doing the asking. But as you saw too, like with my Thompson project, and I have many people that are interested in furthering the research of the name who also donate. So the advantages are, with your surname, this is my recommendation for you, is I would set up the DNA project for that name. I would put yourself in it. If you have a Guild of One Name Studies project, or I would also add that to it, because the Guild of One Name Studies also partners with Family Tree DNA, and they'll put an icon and refer people to your project from the Guild of One Name Studies. But that also helps to bring people in. But also having the existing one, you'll also get inquiries from the immigrants that went out to America, to Australia, and to the other countries. And that'll also give you a lead. So that would be my recommendation for you, is I would plunge right in and do it.
Absolutely. You could also use Facebook as a very good way of actually contacting modern people with that name. And the phone book, of course, phoning people up, writing to them.
Yes, that's obviously the way to start, with the contacts you can find, and sort of perhaps sending a fairly friendly, non-committal letter and saying, are you interested?
Exactly.
Have I read on the forums that it is possible for projects to get people into a project on a 12 marker only basis, which would be considerably cheaper than committing to something, say 37. Obviously 37 will be better, but sometimes to get your project off the ground, it might be better to try to get a few people in with something.
Exactly. So the bulk of my projects that I have on the poster over there, we have a surname book that goes along with it that tells exactly what the admin will offer. And I think on all of mine, I have a minimum that I will pay for a 12 marker test, because what's the price now? Like $50?
What I've seen, it's quite a lot cheaper than the 37. I mean, I appreciate 37 or 67 is
right.
Much better. But at the end of the day, if people are a little bit just dipping their toe in the water, you need to try to get them in without committing them to vast sums of money.
Well, the 37 is best to start with for genealogy purposes, because it refines the time frame down to 300 to 400 years. And you will sometimes see people say, oh, we should get rid of the 12 marker test because 12 markers is not enough. But I myself, I use it as an exclusionary tool. So let me give you an example. I have a line, my maiden name is Bolt, so if you know any Bolts, please send them to me. There's a bunch in Devon. I have a Bolt cousin who does not match our Bolts. What happened is our ancestor was born in 1710, he was born in 1790, and that would make my common ancestor an 80-year-old father, which I always tell people the Bolts hold their age and look good, but 80-year-old father's kind of pushing it, right? So he doesn't match, and it was obviously where like an undocumented adoption is the way you could say it. And I don't yet know what his surname is, but he's got the middle name Parker. So I've done a DNA test on a Parker line that I thought might be related to him, but I didn't want to be out the whole amount of money. So I just did a 12 marker test to see if he matched, and the Parker didn't. Turns out the Parker matched another group of Parkers, so I turned it over to that Parker, and they've since upgraded the kit. And again, too, what's nice is the company has sales. They have upgrade sales, too. So you could start at the 12 and then always upgrade it later. They store the DNA for free for 25 years, so it's easy to upgrade it.
Question here at the front.
Just occasionally, as an administrator, part of the problem we find is actually trying to undo some of the tests that have gone ahead, and they've probably taken the wrong snip pack. And it's how you actually cope with that. Ideas or
What are you referring to, like when you're
so you're doing like do the test and it's like M269,
mm-hmm.
and then you automatically get a snip pack that's high up the tree,
mm-hmm.
but in fact you actually know that they need to test further down the tree, and it's really probably a design of the FDA website that higher snip pack is up the tree, and that's what they're going for, but that's not what you need to test against. It's how to actually get that through and work that out.
This is a case where you have someone in your project and they're going ahead and, because they see it on the Family Tree DNA website, they're ordering it themselves and they don't necessarily need it. Are you able to catch it in time?
Well, what we do is we try to catch that by obviously double checking what they order. So we try to do it that way, but normally because we are a specific marker, they're coming in from somewhere else and done a whole lot of tests that they didn't actually need to do, and we could have maybe refined that. I think it's a good thing we need to kind of think about.
Well, certainly what I do in my projects is that because there's so many people snip testing now, a lot of the matches that you have, when you look at your STR matches, they'll actually have a terminal snip which is quite downstream on the tree of mankind. And by looking at that, you'll be able to predict probably where you fit in just by looking at that particular, those snips that your matches have. A lot of the time, it's possible to identify a snip pack further downstream that they would be more appropriate to test with. But sometimes, largely because of convergence, you're not going to be 100% sure, or in cases where some members only have maybe 1 or 2 matches of 37 markers, there's nothing really in their matches list to compare them to in terms of the snips that their matches have. And in that situation, you're just left with one of those upstream snip packs to test with. But it's not being done automatically. This is something that the project administrators would, well, the M269 is automatic.
What I'm saying is the problem is that if you go into your haplogroup tree, whatever, and you'll automatically get an advert to say you test with this snip pack, but actually should be directed towards the lower snip pack. Case in point, M222 marker, you've got the Nile flag, you're still directed up tree, you're not directed to M222 snip pack.
That's a good point. That's something we could talk to them about. One of the nice things, though, is when you have a DNA project, you can catch that. And as long as the DNA has not yet gone in for processing, the company is very good about reversing things like that. If you catch that someone's ordering something that they shouldn't be, then you can contact them, and they're very good about fixing it, refunding it. It's their caveat is if say someone has actually outright ordered the wrong test, like say someone is going to join your surname project and they order a mitochondrial DNA test, as long as it hasn't got as far as processing, they can reverse it and change it. They're very good about that.
Another thing that I do in my projects is I might have group 1, and then I'll put the probable subgroup, subplate that they belong to, and I'll give instructions along the lines of should contact me for advice, or should do the M222 Sniff pack, or something similar, you know. Any other questions? Okie doke.
Okay,
Well,
thank
listen,
you.
thanks very much, Catherine, for a wonderful presentation.